let's begin with Witchcrafter support, not from Chaos Origin, but instead from RV01, which I'm not even sure what exactly that means. Revolution Booster is what it means. Oh, that's where the toon cards are in. Okay. I don't know if we've seen this before, but now we have the official packaging of the thing. But let's look at some Witchcrafter support. Witchcrafter Terracotta. Level 2 Earth Spellcaster effect monster. 0 attack, 2000 defense. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. If this card is in your hand, you can target a Witchcrafter card in your graveyard, except Witchcrafter Terracotta, and add it to your hand. And if you do, special summon this card. Also, you cannot special from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except Witchcrafters. That's a harsh lock. It is a good effect, but it's also something that you need something in the graveyard for first. So not a starter and a pretty harsh lock. During your main phase, you can fusion summon a Witchcrafter from your extra deck using monsters from hand or field. Okay, so I'm not sure exactly how good Witchcrafter as a deck is going to be, but Witchcrafter is connected to Magistus, right? So they've gotten a couple of good cards already, and it seems like in general this sort of spellcaster, it's almost a theme, I feel like, for the upcoming set releases, that there's a lot of good spellcaster support. Like we have Fairy Tail, we have Magistus, we have Witchcrafter, which all have been, it's not even just the upcoming sets, it's also in previous sets, you know, look at Spenta and stuff like that. Also I think the Magistus support in general has been pretty solid. The Fairy Tail support is going to be pretty solid, and Witchcrafter is also an archetype that's, even though it's never been meta, it has a couple of good cards. So this is interesting in that regard. However, a lot of those archetypes, at least from what I'm seeing so far, they really rely on combining those archetypes together. It's almost like a Dragon Link, but with spellcasters type thing. And this card locking you specifically into Witchcrafters is good for balancing reasons, but I'm not sure if that's going to make it applicable for that playstyle, right? In that deck, it's going to be annoying. Unless maybe you do the other stuff first, and then you at some point, okay, now I'm going to lock myself into Witchcrafters, and that's fine, right? So, because you could always maybe the play pattern of the deck is I start playing with the Magistus cards, I summon my monster negate, like the Zoroa from the extra deck, the Synchro, no, the Fusion, and do that, and then afterwards I'll bridge into Witchcrafter and then do my Witchcrafter stuff, which is a possibility. So yeah, maybe it's good in that, but it is not a starter, which is worth pointing out. Witchcrafter Madame Rilliona, a new fusion monster, level 8 light spellcaster fusion effect monster. It needs Witchcrafter Madame Vere plus 2 spellcaster monsters. Second history, thank you for the 22 months. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. If this card is fusion summoned, you can special summon up to 3 level 7 or lower Witchcrafter monsters with different attributes from each other from your hand and or deck. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn except fusions. During your end phase, if this card's in your grave, you can reveal a spell in your hand, special summon this card in defense position. I mean, summon 3 from the deck is quite something. I mean, it does take specific materials, and it's 3 materials at that. So it's not going to be super easy to summon, and it locks you into fusions from the extra deck, so you can't link with the bodies that you get, which is good. So maybe this is fine. I guess it really depends on the quality of all of the targets, right? Because you are only summoning Witchcrafters, and you are locked into fusions, so maybe it's fine. Because some cards, they just feel really broken when you read them for the first time, but then in the context of the deck, they're fine. Like, an example that's actually even in the same sort of spellcaster direction is some of the Charmer cards, right? Like the Charmer card, they have a Charmer card that allows you to summon 4 bodies. But ultimately, it ends up being fine because you are playing a Charmer deck. Or at least for now, it hasn't been a problem. So, yeah. Is this the first fusion monster that mentions Madame Vere as a fusion material specifically? Because this does give the deck access to fusion deployment. Is that like a good thing? Is that something? Is Madame Vere even a good card? Trying to figure it out real quick. It's a level 8 spellcaster. During damage calc, if you have spellcast battles, real spell, which card? Quick effect, discard a spell, negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent controls. It would make fusion deployment an interesting card going second, right? Because you can potentially negate like all of your opponent's stuff. But all things considered, not really a card you want to be playing, I suppose, right? Like it's maybe it's a one-off, but it's definitely not a good draw. So yeah, okay. Witchcrafter Celebration, quick play spell. You can only use one of the 2 effects per turn and only once that turn. Activate one of these effects. Destroy a Witchcrafter you control and a card your opponent controls. Or fusion summon a Witchcrafter by shuffling spellcasters from your grave and their banishment into the deck. Okay, there we go. This is an easy way to make the fusion monster without the heavy investment of needing 3 actual monsters, right? Like you can just basically fuse them from grave or banishment, which is going to make that a lot simpler. Which is good. Also, that way you don't you can just maybe send the Madame Vere to just your graveyard somehow and then fuse from there. And then it's also a quick play spell, so you can potentially do it on your opponent's turn again, which is also something, you know, like this is on fusion summon, so you could just tutor out 3 Witchcrafters on your opponent's turn, and then on your opponent's turn, it doesn't matter that this card locks you, right? Like you just summon all of them, which is good. Or you can just do the other thing, which is the pop one. And then the second effect is during your end phase, if this card's in your grave and you control a Witchcrafter, you can add this card to your hand. This is going to be very slow, of course, because if you use... I guess it'd be better if it set itself, I feel like, because don't the Witchcrafters have effects that send the spells as cost to the graveyard, right? I feel like it would have made more sense if this card set itself. Because then the idea could be, right? Let's say you're going first. You sent this card to graveyard as cost to activate one of your effects. And then during your end phase, you can set it to then use it on the opponent's turn. I feel like that would have made sense. All of the spells have this effect. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know that a lot of spells have this effect where they go back to your hand, but I feel like this one would have made more sense if it set itself. Wait for it. Okay, dude. Witchcrafter Walpurgis, field spell card. You can only use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. During your main phase, you can add a Witchcrafter monster from your deck to your hand, then discard a card. During your turn, if you would discard a card to activate the effect of a Witchcrafter, you can send the Witchcrafter spell trap from deck to grave instead, except another copy of itself, which is good because essentially you don't have to discard, and the spell that you send from deck for cost is going to go back to your hand in the end phase. So this card basically saves you a discard and lets you get a +1 in the end phase. That is not once per turn, so you can, as long as you have effects to activate, you're just going to get free spells in the grave, which are all going to go back to your hand in the end phase. That is really good. Witchcrafter Distortion, counter trap. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. When a spell trap or monster effect is activated and you control a level 5 or higher Witchcrafter, negate the activation if you do destroy that card. All right, the least inspired trap design of all time is back. If this card's in your graveyard, except the turn it was sent there, you can banish it, add a level 5 or higher spellcaster from your deck to your hand, then discard a card. Okay. I mean, there's literally nothing to say about this card other than, well, they have a generic Omni Negate trap in the archetype now, which is always fun. Love when my starters get negated. The grave effect is cool because you can send it to grave with like the field spell or with any of your Witchcrafter effects, and then on a future turn, it's going to let you add a level 5 or higher spellcaster. It's not a +1 because you do have to discard a card, but in Witchcrafter, I think that doesn't really matter because a lot of the spell traps that you have are just going to end up being like free discards anyways. So, yeah. This does not explain... Like, you guys said wait for it. When you guys said wait for it when I was talking about this effect, I thought that like, there was gonna be a way to set this card if it ends up in the graveyard, and then there wasn't. So... that didn't really make sense. Okay. Maybe I got one guide. There's 2 more cards for this revealed at a later date, and also there's a overframe of Witchcrafter Vice Madame, which is cool. It's hard for me to judge these. I think Witchcrafter, from what I've experienced, I have little experience with Witchcrafter, but from what I've seen, one problem, and you guys can let me know if this is wrong if you've played Witchcrafter, but one problem that I felt like Witchcrafter has is like a lot of the spells that they use to send to grave that then end up back in their hand in the end phase are like not that impactful. So even if you generate some card advantage with those, it mostly happens in the end phase, and the cards, like, they go back to your hand, which is a great resource loop, but it's like, it's not as impactful. Like, for example, Witchcrafter Celebration is another perfect example of this, right? Like, you sent this card to the graveyard for free from your deck for Witchcrafter Walpurgis, right? In the end phase, you add it to your hand, which is a good effect. You do go +1 with that. It's neat. But in the grand scheme of things, it's like super slow because you're adding a quick play spell to your hand in the end phase, but you can't activate it because you can only use one of the effects, and you've already used the second effect now. So this card is just chilling in your hand until the next turn. Like, it's just not gonna impact the game state, right? And I feel like that's what a lot of their cards do. Read Witchcrafter Unveiling. Special summon the Witchcrafter monster from your hand. If you do, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in the response to the activation of your spellcaster monster for the rest of the turn during your end phase. Dude, that's the exact same thing. That's exactly... This changes nothing about what I'm saying right now. This is the exact same problem. This is a mediocre effect. It's not terrible, but it's not crazy, and it has the exact same problem of the card. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, all of these cards, or maybe not all of them, but most of the Witchcrafter cards have this problem, right? It's like the effects of the cards are just like slightly subpar, and so the fact that you're generating a lot of card advantage in the end phase, but it's all quick plays that are stuck in your hand until the next turn, and even then they're not that good, right? So, but the support is good. Like, I mean, this card is crazy, right? This card is crazy because at this point, when you're comboing and you have this card in rotation, you're just sending like 3 spells from your deck to the grave for free. They all come back to your hand in the end phase. But it's kind of like, basically, the way I'm thinking about it right now is like, it feels like Rescue Ace cards. Like, a lot of the Witchcrafter spells feel like Rescue Ace cards, right? Which are like, they're not terrible cards, but if you don't get them for free, you wouldn't play them, right? They're not worth playing if they're not given to you for free, right? But the difference between the Witchcrafter cards and the Rescue Ace cards is the Rescue Ace cards at least go set to your field immediately, and then they are interruptions immediately, right? To realize the advantage that Witchcrafter gives you, you have to add them all to your hand in your end phase, and then hope you survive the turn, and then hope that these cards next turn are going to be good enough, right? Which is weird, I think. I don't know, but the cards are cool. The cards are good. And here's the thing: like, I like Witchcrafter. I like you know me. A deck that gets a lot of quick play spells for free and loops them all and has crazy grind game because of it, dude. I'm on board. If this deck was good, I would like it. But I just feel like it's too slow to realize the card advantage.